You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Monday, happy Moon Day, and welcome to another week in the Milky Way. If you are a Taurus, happy birthday to you. And if it happens to be your birthday today, you are sharing your solar return with some pretty notable people, including Megan Fox, Janet Jackson, two very powerful Tauruses, Pierce Brosnan, Thomas Brody Sangster, the little kid from Love Actually, if you're a fan of that movie, Danny Trejo, and David Boreanaz. I mean, can we just take a moment? Oh, also Tori Spelling. Wow, a lot of really notable birthdays. Jim Sturgis, quite a few people born on May 16th. Who would have guessed? So let's just start by acknowledging the current energy. Let me know if you're joining me live. How are you feeling? How are you holding up after last night's lunar eclipse? Me personally, today feels a lot like a hangover. The past 2 days have really felt draining and low energy for me, and I'm normally a really fast-paced, bubbly person. Now, that could also be Mercury retrograde. I am ruled by Mercury, so, really inviting us to slow down, and I'm feeling that. I'm curious, though, how you're feeling, too, because I always acknowledge that we experience the energy very differently depending on our own charts, our own experiences. So let me know in the comments, whether you're watching live or later, how this energy is feeling for you. Hi, thanks for being here. Definitely doing things differently today, right? It's in the evening rather than the morning. I've just been trying to take the day to go slowly, find my own pace. Right there with you, Bailey. Yeah. The energy is intense. And I really do feel like this total lunar eclipse last night, it was so powerful. And so if you're kind of feeling that hangover, it's all good. So in this episode, we're going to go through today's energy really briefly, just acknowledge what's been going on today. And then I'm going to walk you through the energy of the week ahead. Trying things a new way this week. We'll see how it goes. And at the end of this, let me know if you like this, if you'd like me to do this every Monday, what your thoughts are. So let's just pull up the chart today and show you what the energy is currently looking like. Here we go. It's Taurus season. We have the sun in Taurus. We have the moon now in Sagittarius. So definitely feeling a little bit of a different energy. And you can see that red line there. That's actually the moon opposing Vesta. We won't get into that. But right next to Vesta, we have Mercury retrograde. So the moon opposed Mercury retrograde today. But first, let's go in chronological order here. Overnight, so we had the total lunar eclipse, right? And that was the moon opposing the sun. On the north and south nodes, we had this lunar eclipse squaring Saturn, which brought a really intense, harsh energy of lessons to this lunar eclipse. And then the moon last night, after the eclipse was over, 2 a.m., it actually squared off to Pluto in Capricorn as well. or excuse me, it did not square off to it. It formed a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn, which could have helped us really lean into that transformation and maybe do like another little purge of emotions. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. It rules Scorpios, so we've been feeling that Plutonian energy during this eclipse of clearing things away, burning what's no longer meant for us in order to plant new seeds, create fertile soil for something new to be reborn. And so if you happen to be sleeping, let me know if you've been having intense dreams. Everyone I'm talking to has been having really intense dreams around this eclipse, and that could have been the case for you last night as well when the moon and Pluto locked into this supportive angle with one another. But Pluto never really feels comfortable when it's involved in a transit. So might have been a little aggressive or like subconscious messages trying to come through. Pluto kind of rules the subconscious and what's buried down deep within, along with that Scorpio lunar eclipse. But by 4:50 this morning, the moon was moving into Sagittarius and immediately connecting with Jupiter, because remember, Jupiter just moved into Aries. So the fiery Sagittarius moon formed a harmonious trine to Jupiter in Aries. Normally, this would be an amazing transit, and maybe you woke up this morning feeling a burst of energy or optimism, and love that for you. This was at like 5 a.m., so it would have been first thing in the morning, or maybe this could have even woken you up from a sleep. This is a great way to start a new week. It's interesting, though, with all the lingering eclipse energy, I feel like a lot of us might have been overly optimistic about what we could have gotten done today, or felt this surge of energy and thought like, okay, we're out of the woods, and then kind of had that Mercury retrograde post-eclipse hangover start to seep in. So maybe you hit the ground running this morning. Maybe this transit kind of passed you by. Let's see, what are you guys saying? Just finished watching your video on the lunar eclipse, and boy, were you on point about Sag rising needing solitude. Yeah, this is going through your 12th house. So now the moon should be moving into your first house, either today or tomorrow, and this should feel a lot better for you, a lot more just life-giving. Like it should just feel better with the moon in the first house versus the 12th house. Maybe a little more confidence, feeling a little bit more like yourself. Oh, good. I'm glad you stayed in, followed your gut, just kind of, you were already aligned with the energy. Okay, yes, Alexandra. All your technology has been acting up today. Mercury retrograde has been on one. I've been saying this is the most Mercury retrograde because Mercury's at home in Gemini. And so all of the things we normally, I don't know if you can hear my dog groaning in the background. All of the things we normally experience during the Mercury retrograde are heightened when Mercury's in Gemini. Communication snags, definitely, but technology has been a big one for people. Even before I started this live stream, everything was good to go, and then all of a sudden, the video input went black, and so I had to restart things. I know some of my friends have had communication glitches, Instagram being weird, so definitely feeling that energy. Even on Saturday night, we had our Goddess Night Out event here in Sacramento, and the DJ, everything was plugged in, ready to go, and she got behind the booth to start playing, and something had ejected, and it took her like a half hour to figure out how to reconnect it all and make it work. So I just kept being like, of course. And it changed the whole plan of the evening. Mercury and Gemini can be about the plan as well. So there could be changes of plan, or maybe slowing down the plan, delaying the plan that we are experiencing right now. Yep. Love that. Yep. Oh, yes, Bailey. That makes sense why it felt so good this morning. Your moon is in Sag. So for you, Bailey, things should start picking up and feeling a little bit more at home for you. You're going through your lunar return right now. The Sag moon probably feels really natural to you. But I definitely did overestimate what I was going to get done. Yep, that makes sense. I have Taurus as my south node, and I think that's what sent me to the hospital Sunday night with neck spasms out of nowhere. Oh my goodness. Wow, I hope you're okay. And I'm pretty sure your name is Kayla. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Let me know if I'm not. I hope you're okay, Kayla. Wow. Yeah, and during the eclipse, that is wild. So you are having what I believe is called your nodal reversal, which could be a really powerful time for you during this eclipse cycle where the north node is on your south node and vice versa. It can really create some shifts for you. And depending on what house Taurus and Scorpio rule, what houses they rule in your chart, that could give some indication about why this is happening. But oh my goodness, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Wow. Okay. Yes, I'm saying your name right. Okay, so I love all of the input. Love how everybody's feeling. Maybe you felt like Bailey this morning and you woke up and you're like, yes, so optimistic. The moon is harmonizing with Jupiter. Like, we see all the silver linings. What eclipse? What eclipse, right? And then things probably slowed down a little bit later today because the only other connection the Sagittarius moon has made today is that opposition we talked about to Mercury retrograde. So the moon, when it was at 3 degrees, opposing Mercury in Gemini. And when we have the moon opposing Mercury, it can feel like our mind and our emotions are kind of at odds. It's kind of like this push-pull, almost power play situation, or like they're facing off against each other in a way. And so, you know, tech issues for sure, people experiencing tech issues today, that is a byproduct of this. It also could have caused some mood swings. So maybe you were feeling really abundant and joyful this morning and you felt by 10 a.m., 11 a.m. when the moon started opposing Mercury, you felt your mood switch, a mood swing. You could have even found yourself like over-analyzing things when the moon opposes Mercury, especially Mercury retrograde. We tend to go back and review things and maybe bringing up some doubts in your life, especially after this eclipse in Scorpio. Showing us our fears, showing us the things that we don't normally want to look at. And also, you know, logic could have just gone out the window for you when the moon opposed Mercury. Now, the key to this transit was not moving too fast. So if you did follow your gut and maybe slow down a little bit, probably didn't cause too many issues for you. But if you found yourself swinging from a high to a low midday, or just from an optimistic, excited point of view to more like doubting yourself, questioning yourself by the middle of the day, we can thank Mercury retrograde for that. Meanwhile, the sun is still squaring off to Saturn right now. So if you look at our chart, you can see the sun over here in Taurus, still squaring off to Saturn. This is a loose square right now, but this morning we might have been feeling that. Again, more of those doubts, limiting beliefs being illuminated, coming up for a lot of us. And also the sun is forming a sextile to Neptune, or it's pulling away from a sextile to Neptune, I should say. So in all of this, Neptune's influence has been so helpful. Maybe causing some confusion. Yes, Neptune can do that. It can kind of cloud things, but also allowing us to lean into our compassion, our empathy, our sensitivity, our ability to understand that we're all going through the same tense energy and maybe give grace to other people as they're navigating as well. Oh, interesting. Half of the 11th and half of your 5th is Taurus Scorpio. I don't know if that has anything to do with your neck, but wow. I'm glad you're here and able to watch a video and feel okay and not hopefully in the hospital. Sending good energy to you. So that's kind of what the energy of today was. Kind of a funky day astrologically, because really that lunar eclipse energy, still feeling it, still dominating the day. Now let's walk through, though, the main transits that are playing out in the week ahead. So I want to start by doing like a little planetary roll call, if you will, and just walking through where everything is. You can also find this at any time on thespiritualjournalist.com. If you just go to astrology and current planets, you can see a list of where all the planets are, really easy to understand. The sun is at 26 degrees in Taurus. The moon is now at 12 degrees in Sagittarius. Mercury, as we know, is retrograde in Gemini. Venus is in Aries and Mars is in Pisces. Jupiter just moved into Aries, so we're starting to feel those, over the next couple of weeks especially, I think we'll start to be a little bit more optimistic and wanting to start new things. Maybe you're already having some ideas of things you want to start or new projects in the back of your mind. Expect that to develop a little more, especially during Gemini season, especially once Mercury retrograde is over. I have a feeling big moves will be made while Jupiter is in Aries over the next couple months. Saturn is at 24 degrees in Aquarius. Don't I know it? Right on top of my Saturn. Uranus is at 15 degrees Taurus. Neptune, 24 degrees Pisces. Pluto, remember, is also retrograde in Capricorn. And of course, the north and south nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio. Chiron is also in Aries. So that's just a little list of where all the planets are. I realize we don't do that very often. We don't go through the planets. And sometimes I think that can be helpful. Just a general little snapshot, especially if you saw a planet and you were like, oh, I have my Venus in Aries or something like that. That can be really helpful to know, okay, I'm having my Venus return, or my Saturn's at 26 degrees Aquarius. Saturn is coming for me, things like that. It's a nice little graphic to just touch in with. Now let's look at the week ahead though, and start with the planetary transits. What's going on? So there we go. You can see, actually, let me zoom in here really quick so you can read this a little bit more easily. There we go. Okay. That's better. So today, the major energy we felt was that harmony between the moon and Jupiter, 5 a.m., first thing this morning, that burst of energy. All afternoon, though, we really haven't had a lot of action happening. And so, again, that might be why this afternoon you're just feeling a little bit like, woo, like I don't really know what energy I'm feeling. I don't know if this is the eclipse, if it's Mercury retrograde, if it's just kind of stagnant energy. But that was what dominated our day today. Tomorrow, we'll talk all about this conjunction between Mars and Neptune, a really interesting transit. And of course, we'll go into detail about all of these transits throughout the week. But this can make us act from a place of intuition and imagination, or it can cause a lot of confusion and deception. So there's kind of two potentials with this conjunction between Mars and Neptune. I will say, maybe don't move too quickly over the next couple days. Just Mercury retrograde and this conjunction inviting us to slow down. And also, again, pay attention to your dreams. With Mars conjunct Neptune, you could have some really aggressive dreams. And double check things. Don't buy into things too easily when Mars and Neptune are conjunct. On Wednesday, the moon squares off to Jupiter. So the moon will move into Capricorn and square off to Jupiter in Aries. And this can make us a little overly optimistic or overcommit ourselves to things. And as the moon is in Capricorn, it can almost be like our practicality is at odds or clashing with our optimism. Our limiting beliefs with the Capricorn moon are clashing with our ability to lean into abundance. So, this could cause some tension for us on Wednesday. Bear that in mind. Then on Thursday, we see a little bit of a shift here. Mercury retrograde forms a sextile to Jupiter. We have a lot of Mercury activation this week and a lot of Jupiter activation this week. So if you are a Sag rising, a Gemini rising, Virgo rising, or even a Pisces rising, I would say pay attention to what's going on with these planets this week, because you'll probably feel these transits a little bit more strongly with these being your ruling planets. So Thursday, Mercury retrograde forms this sextile to Jupiter, and this can kind of expand or amplify the things we've been reviewing. Mercury retrograde has been asking us to go back, check the facts, slow down, maybe even review our own beliefs, desires. In a lot of ways, this Mercury retrograde is asking us to check the information that we think we know. And Jupiter is going to expand upon that. Now, this could bring some optimism. This could bring some big realizations that we're having during Mercury retrograde. And it could also help us see silver linings, especially after this eclipse. If things are falling away, if things feel chaotic still, this sextile between Mercury retrograde and Jupiter can maybe even help us see a higher perspective, with Jupiter ruling higher understanding, higher learning, and even spark a little bit of like an adventurous spirit in us. Like, it's okay if we don't know everything, you know? It's all right if we don't have all the information. We can trust that everything coming up right now is coming up for a reason and helping us to have a better understanding of the big picture when all is said and done and when Mercury stations direct again. Then on Friday, Gemini season begins. So if you've been enjoying the Taurus vibes, soak them in for the next 4 days, because as of Friday, people are getting social, getting chatty. The pace in general is going to pick up a little bit during Gemini season. That's what we tend to see with Gemini being, you know, again, ruled by Mercury, very flighty, kind of flaky, all over the place, able to shapeshift to whatever environment they're in. I have a feeling a lot more social events will be happening during Gemini season. We're already seeing that. The world is opening up. People are craving that social interaction, and Gemini season is definitely going to amplify that. And Gemini season also can make us feel like being around people more, being around friends more, making new connections, learning new things. It brings a lot of fresh energy in. On Saturday, we have what's called Mercury cazimi, as the sun conjuncts Mercury retrograde. So in the moment that the sun and Mercury are at the same spot in the sky, it's almost as if Mercury is supercharged, and we can gain these really profound insights at this moment. Normally, Mercury retrograde feels like it's kind of fogging our mental state or making us doubt ourselves, making us go back. It's almost like if you're ever studying and you think you know the answer to something, but you're kind of doubting yourself, so you have to go back and double check the notes over and over again. You know what I mean? On Saturday, this Mercury cazimi brings a moment of clarity, maybe even like something that's like, it all snaps into place. I get it. And everything that we've been reviewing, everything that's been coming up for us, it could help us gain some clarity and see those things in a new light after this conjunction between the sun and Mercury. And then on Sunday, Mercury retrograde moves back into Taurus. So because Mercury appears to be moving backward in our sky, it moves back into the sign of Taurus. This can help us, after that Mercury cazimi, sort of ground those insights, plant ourselves back into the earth and kind of ground our mental state in a way which could be nice during this Mercury retrograde. You could also be reviewing things that came through when Mercury was in Taurus, a couple weeks ago. Maybe you had an idea then, you had a realization then, and when Mercury moves back into Taurus, it'll almost be like revisiting those ideas, those thoughts, those conversations, even with Mercury ruling our communication. A conversation that was had while Mercury was in Taurus could come back up. So those are the main energies we're walking towards. And really quickly, let's talk about what's going on with the moon too. Of course, the moon moved into Sagittarius today, as we talked about. The moon stays in Sagittarius tomorrow on Tuesday, really helping us envision possibilities. The moon in Sagittarius makes us adventurous, spontaneous. We want to learn new things. We want to put ourselves out there. It's very optimistic energy and helps us see all of the possibilities. So we normally love a Sagittarius moon. I do personally, at least. And maybe tomorrow we'll feel that a little bit more of that optimism and good vibes from that Sagittarius moon as we pull away from the lunar eclipse a little bit more. The moon moves into Capricorn Wednesday and Thursday. Now the moon is in detriment in Capricorn. It does not like to be here. It's in the opposite sign of its home sign, and it can detach us from our emotions, make us very emotionally cold. It can also distance us from our intuition as well. So try not to be too cold or harsh. If you get emotional or if people around you are emotional, like really try not to be a jerk. The moon in Capricorn, though, can help us be a little bit more practical, which might be welcome with Mercury retrograde and a lot of confusion, realizations coming through. This can help us kind of come back to our stable center, integrate a lot of the lessons we've been learning. Capricorn energy is ruled by Saturn, which brings lessons and wisdom. And Wednesday or Thursday actually could be great times to connect with older, wiser people in your circle, maybe your family, gain some wisdom from people around you. Like if there's a situation that's been weighing on you emotionally, call your grandma, call your mom, call your aunt or uncle, somebody you know has wisdom and might have some advice that you're not seeing. When the moon is in Capricorn, it's always a great idea to, you could even connect with ancestors who are no longer here. You know, Capricorn rules our ancestors. So doing so can help us integrate the lessons and maybe gain that wisdom that we don't inherently have from something outside of us. Because like I said, our intuition is a little bit cut off with the moon in Capricorn. The moon moves into Aquarius on Friday, helping us get a little bit more goofy, a little bit more silly. Aquarius energy marches to the beat of its own drum. So it's all about expressing what's authentic, what makes us individuals. And it's not the most warm and fuzzy energy, similar to Capricorn energy. It can make us a little bit distant or like we're off on our own planet emotionally. But this is a great time on Friday and Saturday as Gemini season begins to really get comfortable with yourself. What do you want? What's important to you? What makes you different from other people? And how can you show up in social situations as Gemini season begins, expressing that authenticity, expressing what makes you unique. You know, you might even be reviewing the ways you're communicating during Mercury retrograde. And the moon in Aquarius can almost help you like see from this different, like you're floating on a cloud, like you're almost looking down at yourself, like, how am I operating right now? Do I like how I'm operating? Do I want to do it differently? So can just gain new perspectives on Friday and Saturday, especially because we have that Mercury cazimi on Saturday, that moment of profound insights. And with the moon in Aquarius at that moment, a shift in perspective could be huge. Sunday, the moon moves into Pisces. My dogs are going crazy back here. Okay, you guys, come on. They're playing tug of war behind me. This is what I get for leaving the door open. On Sunday, the moon moves into Pisces. It's the final quarter moon, and it's the peak releasing phase. And the moon in Pisces helps us tap into our intuition again, helps us to feel into those psychic sensitivities, to those emotional sensitivities as well. There they go. To those emotional sensitivities as well. And the moon in Pisces invites us to trust. So as we are releasing anything that came up during the eclipse, anything lingering that needs to get out of our system, clear from our field, the final quarter moon in Pisces asks us to trust the process, trust that we're taken care of, maybe lean into a spiritual practice as a form of release, as a ritual for release, and go with the flow. Go with the flow is what the final quarter moon in Pisces wants us to do. Question: do you use Western or I never know if it's sidereal or sidereal, but I use Western or tropical astrology. So there's like, I'm probably not saying it right, but sidereal is based on essentially like the current constellations in the night sky, whereas Western astrology, tropical astrology, is based on mathematical points in the sky. So I've talked about this before, but this is something that I want to do later this year, a series about all the different kinds of astrology, because there are so many different styles of astrology, practices of astrology, and I think it'd be really cool to talk to different astrologers about why they practice the way they do, things like that. But I use Western, and I will say, regardless of like the signs, the only difference is the signs, right? So All the aspects we're talking about, for example, the moon opposing Mercury retrograde today, that is standard across pretty much any practice of astrology because it's literally like where these two planets are in the sky right now. It's why when we have a full moon, we know the moon is opposite the sun, regardless of what style of astrology we're practicing, if that makes sense. So I try to format, like even if you see down below these little words on the ticker is what we call it. All of those aspects will translate across different astrology practices. It's just the signs that they're in would be different. So, I believe in sidereal astrology. Let me know if anybody knows how to pronounce it because I've heard it a couple different ways. I believe it might be Taurus season now, but like at the beginning of Taurus season, it still would have been Aries season because this is a whole conversation that will be great for that series. Those would be great interviews because I don't know all of the differences. So I don't want to speak on something I don't actually know very well. Western, great. I understand that. Very little that I do know. Yeah, and most of in the US, most of the horoscopes you're reading, I believe sidereal is similar to Vedic astrology also. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but when you look into Vedic astrology, if you calculate your chart in that form of astrology, you might actually be a different sign because it's based on different math, different science, still the same aspects though. Yeah, dogs, they're over it now. They left. All right. So we have an interesting week ahead. If you are feeling a little drained from the eclipse, if things are still coming up, remember we're still in the middle of Mercury retrograde. Slow down, give yourself some grace, give yourself some patience to work through things. We can't force purges, right? We can't force things to come up that aren't ready to come up. So really just taking things as they come, observing emotions as they surface, and just taking it one day at a time. Tomorrow could be a bit confusing, but it could also lead to some intuitive movements with Mars and Neptune forming that conjunction. And, later in the week, we have a lot of supportive, really powerful transits. So if it feels like your week is off to a little bit of a rough start or not going exactly how you want it to go just yet, wait until later in the week. Things should be maybe a little clearer and the energy might feel a little bit easier to work with. Okay, let's go ahead and pull a card to see if any other messages need to come through about the week ahead. So I'm going to pull from the Queen of the Moon Oracle. I felt it actually says guidance through lunar and seasonal energies. And I was like, after the eclipse, the Queen of the Moon, it probably has a great message for us. As I'm shuffling, this is a great time for you to ask your questions if you have any remaining questions, or if there's specific insights you're looking for, ask your question of the universe and see what comes through in this card pull. I appreciate you all telling me how the energy is feeling for you. Oh, interesting. We just had 2 cards fly out. I'm going to take those. As our cards because they seem pretty spot on. The first one is Dark Moon, the Void. And it's the first card in the deck. And this feels like the energy right now. This feels like the energy, the void. I'll read the descriptions in just a moment. And the second card we pulled is card number 18. And it says Pleasure. It's marked by the waning gibbous moon. So let me just read these and see what's coming through. The Void. Your time to rest and reset is here. Release all that does not serve you. Stop resisting. The void is a time of possibility, not just darkness. There is nothing to fear in letting go of negative patterns and habits. So let go of the old. The mantra here is, I freely release what I no longer need. Freely release what I no longer need. Yes, please. If you feel like you're in the void after that lunar eclipse, sometimes too, after we release things, after we have purges, it can feel like we're in a little bit of darkness or a void. Like, okay, we got it out, but what do we replace it with? So if you feel like you're in between or just drained of energy after such a powerful eclipse, you might be in the void too, and that's okay, because all beautiful creations are born out of darkness. We are all born out of dark wombs. So remember, the beautiful things can come out of the void. Or if you are going through your own dark night of the soul, this can feel like the void as well. And if that's you, I love you. I'm here for you. Like, I've been there, and it's rough, and sometimes the dark night of the soul comes in waves, or you think you're out of the dark night of the soul and then something else comes up because it's a crazy eclipse season, you know. So if you feel like there's been darkness, it's okay. We're going to get through it. The light will shine again. And then let's see what number 18 has to say, because it does feel like there are kind of two opposing energies here. If number 18 is an important number to you, pay special attention to this message. It says pleasure, marked by the waning gibbous moon, the moon that is actually, we are in a waning gibbous moon right now. So this is the energy we are currently feeling. Are you taking life too intensively or too seriously? The time has come to call in the pleasures of life. Seek lightheartedness at this time. Focus on what would make you happy. Schedule in activities you find pleasurable. I open myself to the pleasures of life. Yes, sometimes the best way to get out of the void is to create our own light, right? Maybe text that friend that always makes you smile, or do just a fun activity that lights you up, even if it's just putting on your favorite song, dancing around your house, doing some yoga, watching your favorite movie. Do something that brings you pleasure, and that can kind of help you move out of the darkness that has surfaced during eclipse season. Also, this is a great reminder under a Sagittarius moon. Sagittarius energy loves to have fun. It's that happy-go-lucky energy. You know, if you've met a Sagittarius person or someone with a lot of Sagittarius energy in their chart, they're probably the life of the party. Like, they can go, they're always about fun, right? Always trying to see those silver linings and create those silver linings. So this is a beautiful reminder that we're in that season right now in the moon cycle. As we're coming away from the full moon, from the eclipse, it can be an introspective time, but sometimes the best way to release and let go is through pleasure and is through fun. And the energy is supporting this with the moon in Sagittarius right now. Yes, oracle cards. We always end our live streams with an oracle card pull, because sometimes Spirit, God, the universe just needs to bring another message through. So much love to you, Kayla. And again, I hope you are feeling better. Hope your neck is doing okay. They call me toxic positive. That is Sagittarius energy. I'm telling you, my mom is a double Sag with a Gemini moon. So I get it. I get Sagittarius energy. And sometimes I think I have inherited a little bit of toxic positivity. But we need people like that in the world. We need people who are always seeing the positive, right? And we need people who are aware of maybe the negatives as well, or a little bit more protective too. So, but I am truly just happy. Yes, spread that positivity. Screw anyone who tells you it's toxic, unless you're refusing to see, you know, the reality of the situation. But we need positive people like you. All right, everybody. I hope that this was a helpful look ahead for you at the week to come. Tomorrow we'll be talking about Mars conjunct Neptune, what it means for us, how you can apply it to your own chart, and diving a little deeper into the transits as the week goes on. But if you found this video helpful, please go ahead and like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can finally monetize this channel, keep these videos coming to you for free every single day. And we're getting close. We are getting close. Got a dog in the background here, just being crazy under the Sagittarius moon. And also coming up this week, if you've heard me talking a lot about Saturn returns, because I am literally at the beginning of mine right now, like smack dab in the middle of Saturn's first hit on my Saturn, we're talking all about it tomorrow on our next episode of The Spiritual Journalist. It'll be at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, right here, wherever you're watching. And we're talking with Court Burns from Bravely Beautiful brand. She also runs the Saturn Return Diaries podcast. So she's talked with a lot of people about their own Saturn returns, and she has just finished out her first Saturn return. So we're going to talk about tips to navigate what the Saturn return does for us in our lives, and maybe some insights for you if you're in a similar situation or about to head into your Saturn return. And if you're in the middle of yours too, come join us, because I want to know about your experience, and we can hold hands and walk through our Saturn returns together, everybody. Have a lovely evening to you too. I think it's Janine, right? I'm pretty sure we've met. And yes, see you all tomorrow, Kayla. I hope that you join me back here tomorrow morning at 9:30. But until I see you next, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.